So, before I go into every single run, I decide whether I'm going to focus on one of two things, either my pace and my speed, or the duration of the run, perhaps the time that I'm willing to take for this run. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit more into why I might choose one or the other and how sometimes they should be separated. Okay, so stick around. All right, so here it is. I go into every single run deciding whether or not I'm going to focus on my pace or my speed or my duration. So, pace and speed would be being able to run a mile in 10 minutes or 9 minutes or 7 minutes, something like that. A lot of people, when they first start, are going to be running or walking in maybe about 18, 14, 15, 12 minutes, whatever it is. So, don't really focus on what everybody else is doing, but focus on what you are currently capable of. Now, when I go into a speed workout or a pace workout, my goal is to maintain a speed that is maybe a little bit more difficult for me for a longer period of time. And that doesn't mean that I'm focusing on running for a longer duration. That means that I'm focusing on maintaining a specific speed for a longer duration. Usually, these workouts are sometimes a little bit shorter. If you're doing a speed workout, there are a couple of ways to do it. Some of them are sprints, where maybe you'll run at your max pace, an 8-minute mile for only a quarter of a mile, and then you slow down and you let your heart rate drop, and then you run up, you do that pace again for another quarter mile, and you'll do that for a specific amount of times. Say you're working up to getting an 8-minute mile, then you might do 8-minute miles for a quarter mile 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row, so that over the course of that entire practice, that entire training session, you ran for a full mile, just split up into 4 different sections at the pace that is your goal. Now, the reason that we do that is that when you run at a shorter distance, you can run much faster than if you're trying to run a full mile or a full mile and a half or 2 miles or 13 miles. Now, how do you figure out how fast you can run for a mile? One of my favorite tools is on my phone, and it is in my running apps. It is this little one with, oops, sorry about that. It is this little one right here with the M on it. It is called the McRun app. And it is actually by a company called Macmillan. So you can go into your apps and you can either look for McRun, MCRUN, or Macmillan, MCMILLAN. And what they do is they allow you to put in a pace. So right here, I've got a 30-minute pace for a 5 kilometer. I was trying to help somebody else out, and she said that was the fastest she had ever run a 5K race, which is 3.1 miles. And it tells you right next to it that that would be a 9-minute, 39-second mile. And now above it, if you see, you've got 400 meters. 400 meters would be 1/4 of a mile. And that means that she can run that in 1 minute and 46 seconds. It also estimates that if she did a half mile or 800 meters, that she would be able to do that in under 4 minutes, 3 minutes and 53 seconds. So that's what that tells you, is that even though you can run a 5K at a 9-minute, 39-second mile pace, you can likely run faster if you only run a mile, in which case you can do an 8-minute, 39-second mile, or even faster, a sub 8-minute mile if you run only half a mile, okay? So the goal is to try and run that multiple times during your training session. There are a lot of training plans out there that will help you with that. And if you go into McRun, it gives you workout paces, and you can actually go online as well. And the whole website, you can purchase online training plans. I've never done that. I can't say anything about it. But what I do like about it is that, let's say that you are doing speed workouts. It's got 2 speed workouts listed here, speed workouts and sprint workouts. So if you tap on speed workouts, it lets you know that if you're running, if you're doing sprints, that you can do 400 meters somewhere between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 10 seconds. You should train for half miles, anywhere between 4:11 and 4:24. And then as you go up and up and up, you those are the paces that you should be shooting for, right? It also has an endurance pace underneath it, which is the second half of what I'll be talking about, running for time. So we'll go back to that later. Anyways, so it gives you paces that you can kind of guesstimate that you would be able to run at based on your current pace, based on a specific race. So once again, go back into here, and if you click on this button up here, it will say show all. So it'll let you know if the furthest you've ever run is 1 mile, then recalculate, put in your pace for 1 mile. And if your pace was, see over here, 1 mile, and if your pace was 10 minutes, put in 10 minutes. If your pace was 15 minutes, put in 15 minutes. Let's see, I'll put in 15 minutes just to see what it does. And it calculates that if you were to run a half marathon, you would do it in 4 hours and 1 minute. Now, if your goal is to be under 4 hours or to be under 3 hours, then you can once again go in there, recalculate, move it to the half marathon section, which I don't think you can see very well, but anyways, move it to half marathon, and then put in 3 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds. So I scroll both of those all the way up to the top, and then I click calculate, and it lets me know that my goal is probably to get a 5K done in 51 minutes and 50 seconds. There we go. And that is at a 16-minute, 41 second pace. That is totally doable. It also means that I want to run my quarter mile in 3 minutes, my half a mile in 6 minutes and 42 seconds. It gives you these paces. So these paces right here are going to be you pushing. These paces are going to be you trying to go at a very, good, fast pace for yourself. It's not you walking, and talking to everybody. It's you maybe walking faster, and when you try to talk, you're definitely breathing a little bit harder, okay? So that is what I recommend you look at for speed workouts for yourself based on your speed, and how to figure that out and how to calculate that out, okay? Now, I said earlier that there's a lot of training plans out there that will help you. One of my favorites, and I wish that you could see this, is called the Ryan Hall Half Marathon Training Plan, and he's got it split up into a short program where you would be running fewer miles per week, and a long program where you would be running more miles per week. And so what it says here is that you will be doing 5 sets of 800 meters at your 10-kilometer pace. So if your 10-kilometer pace is 10-minute miles, then that means that running a half mile, you would be running it at 5 minutes. So your goal is to complete 800 meters in 5 minutes. So you would find an 800 meter length or a half mile length. Maybe you drive from your house to the half mile point, and okay, I've just got to run that far. And then I'm going to walk back, and then I'm going to run that far again. And then your goal is to get there in 5 minutes or less. And if you don't make it in 5 minutes or less, then you walk back and you do it again. You walk back and you do it again until you're able to do it 5 times at that pace, okay? Now you're pushing, you're working hard, so you're not going to make it every time. Sometimes you're going to have to stop. Sometimes you're going to have to look at it and think, okay, maybe 5.5 minutes is where I'm at right now, and that's okay. Okay? So that's basically the way that you would do a speed workout. Another way that you can do it is if you have a track. Most regulation tracks are 400 meters, which is 1/4 of a mile. So if you go around that track from start to finish twice, that would be your half mile. And that's an easy way to figure out how quickly you need to run it, okay? I want to get around it in 2.5 minutes, and I want to get around it in another 2.5 minutes. That's a 10-minute pace, 5 minutes for a half a mile. Relatively simple. Just got to figure out how far it is that you need to go, where it is that you're running. I really like the treadmill for that reason, because I can set it to a 5-minute, a 10-minute mile pace. And I know that in 5 minutes, I'm going to go half a mile, and I can click, I can lower my speed, and I can walk and then go again. And I can do that for as many times as the training plan tells me to do it. Now I'm just going to go real quick into duration and trying to extend your duration, because this one's relatively simple. If I can run for 1 minute today, my goal is to run for more than 1 minute tomorrow, and more than 1 minute the next day. And so your goal isn't necessarily a pace. Your goal is time. So you go into it and you say, okay, I am not looking to run 10-minute miles today. I am looking to run for 15 minutes today. And you just maintain a pace where you're breathing, and your body will allow you to go for 15 minutes that day. If for some reason you get to the 10-minute mark and you're like, I'm not going to make it, you pull back just a little bit, not so much that you're making it easy on yourself, but enough that you can make it for those last 5 minutes, or at least one more minute. And then you analyze that and you think, okay, so today I went a little bit too fast to be able to run for 15 minutes. Tomorrow I need to slow it down. And that in itself will kind of help you to monitor what your pace should be. The reason that you want to do that is because a lot of times when you go into your very first race, it is so exciting. Your adrenaline is pumping. There are so many people around you. They all have their own paces. If you're running 15-minute miles and they're running 10-minute miles, then you don't want to keep up with them. But a lot of times we get it into our heads that as soon as that gun goes off and the bell rings or whatever it is that lets you know it's time to start running, you're running with the crowd. And there are people out there who are, I kid you not, running 8-minute miles. And if you're running 15-minute miles, you're going to kill yourself. I have done that where I have started off and I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, dang, I'm going too fast. I got to slow down. We just heard Dave Hollis talking about that, where he said that he was halfway through his half marathon and he realized that he was going too fast. Now, there's two schools of thought right there for you. Not two schools of thought, but there's two ways of thinking with that. If you know that this is your very first one and that you don't want to go too fast, you know that your only goal is to make it in under 3 hours, then you need to be maintaining your pace. But if you're a seasoned runner and you've been going for time, for race after race after race, and you're like, okay, I think I can do it in 10 minutes this time, and you're ahead of that 10-minute mark at your halfway point, you can try to keep pushing a little bit harder to see if you're going to make it. But from experience, if you're pushing hard from the very beginning and you continue to push hard throughout the race, but you're not at the level yet where you're going to be able to make it, those last 2 or 3 miles are probably going to go slower and slower and slower, because you're not going to be able to push yourself if you don't have the training behind you, the foundation under you, those different things. So one of the things that I'll talk to you about in the future is ways to end your race, how to practice saving something so that you can push harder at the very end, how to practice running at a good pace in the very beginning, different things like that. There are different ways that you can go into each training run so that you're practicing the different aspects of the race that you need to keep in mind, okay? So just as a reminder, you're either going to have a speed workout where you're going in and maybe it's going to be only a 20-minute training session where you're trying to go for speed and you're trying to build up from a 15-minute mile to a 14-minute mile, or you're trying to increase your endurance. You're trying to make it so that your heart and your breathing are in line with the amount of time you're going to be spending on the road. Because you can run 15 minutes now, but I kid you not, that half marathon is going to take you somewhere between probably 2 hours and 3.5 to 4 hours. My very first half marathon was 3.5 hours. My second half marathon, my goal was to make it under 3 hours, and I did. I think I made it in 2:45. And then now my maintenance half marathons would be right around 2:30. I can typically finish in around 2 hours and 30 minutes. But my goal for the year is to get to the Rise Marathon and to break that 2-hour mark. Just like Dave had said earlier, that's been my goal for a long time. I've wanted to make it in under 2 hours, but that's hard. That's hard, you guys. So I'm very proud anytime that I make it under 2:20. And I would be very proud if I could make it under 2:15, because that would be a personal best for myself. So there you go. That's what I got for you. Speed versus time, okay? Time spent running versus miles faster, all right? What is it that you're going to focus on? All right, if you have any questions, do you want me to focus on something different next time, let me know. Put it in the comments. If you liked this post, please click that like button. If you want to, you can subscribe. If you don't like it, sorry, maybe I'm just not for you. All right, you guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.